Hi, this is Julia Atkinson Dunn, the newly married Jew. And I'm going to let Julia introduce herself in terms of what she does and what she calls herself. But this is the first in our Unconventional Career Path series. And I met Julia, I was driving here and I was thinking it's 10 years ago.
It is 10 years.
10 years ago, probably almost to the day that we met. And we met when Julia was doing interior design down in Queenstown. And we hit it off immediately, and she did the interior design for our house, and we loved it. But fast forward to today, and Julia is doing something completely different to that, and it's been a long road for her and an interesting road for her, and that's why I picked her. But the reason Julia and I have got on so well, I think, is because for me, what's drawn me to her is her insatiable curiosity, her colourful nature, and the fact that she is a little bit like a magpie and picks things up to bring into her nest. Doesn't always know where that's going to go.
No.
But trusts in her ability, and that's why we're here. So Julia, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell people what it is that you now do. If you can put that into a few words.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm sitting here thinking, it's like when you have to fill out the departure cards.
Yes, I do know all about that.
I've never written the same thing.
No, I hardly ever do either.
No. So I guess right now, if I break it down to my main stream of income right now, that would be, I call myself a social and strategy sidekick.
Cool.
I made that up.
Yeah, good.
Because you can make things up.
That's right.
And within that, at the moment, I consult directly with mostly small business and one-man bands.
Yep.
And I help them with, it always begins with helping them with their social media.
Yeah.
But that's actually the end result of sorting out their entire website, sorting out who their customer is, who they actually want to talk to, how they want to be perceived.
Yeah.
And we do all that work, and the social media is really just the easy bit on the end.
Isn't that interesting how you come in through one door but you actually leave via another?
Well, most people don't
way.
sort of think that, they think that that's all sort of going okay.
Yeah.
And they just want someone to teach them how to press the right buttons on Facebook, but that you've got to know who you're talking to, as it turns out. So that's kind of my main source of income.
Yeah.
But I guess the supplements to that at the moment, this isn't what it has been historically, is writing. So I write for a couple of magazines, mostly around home stuff like design or a little bit of gardening lately, because that's what it's really what I'm into. But because writing's always actually been a real passion of mine, and that all stems, I get asked to write because of my design blog, which I've written for 10 years about New Zealand and Australian creative talent. That's called Studio Home. So
that's what you were doing as well when I met you. I think you were just starting to get into that.
So Studio Home, essentially, when I met you, I had my background had been, I did a student exchange in my last year of high school in Canada, which meant that I didn't get university entrance. I just missed out. But I also went and did that knowing I wasn't going straight to university, because I honestly didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I was a pretty good student and I was pretty diligent, and my dad said, you can go, but you certainly cannot muck around when you come home. So I didn't. I think if I'd known what marketing was in marketing and communications, if I'd actually understood what that meant, that probably would have been where I went, because that is actually what I've forged a career out of now. But in a lot of ways, when I see people my age who did that, they still struggle with what I do now, because I learnt it through immersion.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. So I actually went ski instructing and learnt to become a ski instructor, and got some kind of tourism diploma in that.
Oh, wow.
And travelled with that. And then I actually really, I did it because I wanted to earn some money, have a job, but also really suss out what I wanted to do. And I realised that a couple of years into it, and I studied interior design via a fine arts foundation course. And I studied that in Christchurch. It was a fast track course, but it was an intense one. So that was what I recognised my passion as. But I think big realisations came through that, as in sometimes you can't teach taste.
Yeah, so you had some of it already innately in you and an interest in it.
I feel like I did.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest learning curve from that course, I went into it at 23.
Yeah.
And no. Oh, yeah, 22, 23. And I was one of the only ones that could stand up and present to a room.
Wow, that's interesting, isn't it?
And that's because I was a ski instructor and I taught groups of adults and children 2 to 3 times a day on a daily basis.
So you had to learn how to step up and do that.
Yeah. And I learnt, I also learnt a lot about communication with that, and that people learn in different ways.
Yep.
So that was fantastic, and I started seeing how the things I was learning actually all did complement each other.
And that's what I mean about the magpie, is being aware of what you might need and bringing it in to make your nest. And again, you don't necessarily know what the end result of that's going to be.
No, and that's okay as well.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit like what I consider a home. I always think a home is in motion, and you get rid of things sometimes and you pull old things or new things in. And I think that's a bit like a career path. Nothing I've done, I will say, has been a massive departure of another thing.
Yeah.
So everything has been quite fluid and learning the skills that then means, actually maybe I could charge money for that, maybe. Or so after I did interior design, I learnt a lot of really amazing technical skills with CAD and drawing and technical drawing with that. But then I learnt the real side of any design. Any designer needs to know it's not actually about you. It's not actually about your personal taste.
Thinking about what someone else likes. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So when you think, I have a really great flair, I want to be a fashion designer, I want to be any type of designer, ultimately it's not actually about you. It's about what the client wants.
When you want to make something that's saleable,
how they live.
Yeah.
They always come into it with personal preferences, and you actually have to work with that because you're creating something for them. You're of service to them.
Yes.
And I've seen 101 people drop out of design careers because they forgot that it wasn't actually about them.
Yes, and I know quite a few artists, and that is a kind of a constant dilemma or something they need to work with.
And I think designers verge on being artists themselves. It's exactly that, whereas a designer is slightly more obliged to fill a brief than an artist. But so, is this, are we?
Yeah, no, awesome. Okay. So you've told us a bit about how you got there. Who have you listened to for advice along the way? And what kind of advice did they give you, and was it worth listening to?
I was just thinking, I've had so much great advice. A lot of it has been from you.
Only at a certain point.
No,
you had a lot of advice before then.
I feel like even when you were my client, you gave me great advice.
Oh, how interesting.
No, you really did. And then when we worked together beyond that, and just have for years. But I didn't listen to my dad when he told me at 24, when I moved from Auckland from a good furniture job to Queenstown to set up my own business. I didn't listen to him when he said, you don't have very much experience. You don't have any experience in running a business, and more to the point, you don't have any kind of nest egg. And I was like, whoa, that's what credit cards are for. They're not.
What you've touched on there too, though, is because sometimes it's the advice we deliberately choose not to take as well that can perhaps crystallize some of our decisions and maybe even make us more fired up about or passionate to defend what we do.
I mean, I didn't understand anything about tax.
Yeah.
And it took me, it's taken me years to sort through that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I wasn't even charging properly because I didn't understand the implications of tax or what GST was. And now that I do, I'm all over it. And I'm like zero. I'm all over that.
So advice to younger people around that? Taking the lessons from you?
Well, a business is a whole.
Yeah.
And
elaborate, please.
So, well, what I mean is you can't just offer a service.
Yeah.
You can't just offer a service and not, clean the bathroom. You've got to know about what you're charging, what is your value, what is your realistic value, when to make concessions.
Yep.
Because I do believe there are opportunities to work for free and exchange.
Yeah.
So many people say that's ridiculous, but I've got to say some of the biggest doors have opened for me for letting someone test me,
Same.
Knowing when to invoice, knowing what terms to put on an invoice, like this is really important. And it's not unachievable. We're working through this with my husband at the moment, setting up a new business. And he said, but I'm not a businessman and no one's taught me this. And I said, well, sure as hell no one taught me this. But I learned that anyone can learn anything.
Yeah, and great. What a great lesson.
Just because people use big words doesn't mean they actually know more than you. They've just picked up big words on the way. I find that the biggest difference between corporate and small business, it's just the words they use.
Yeah. And the whole, scene of it, how it feels.
Yeah.
You can
honestly make it what you want.
Yeah.
And it just turns out that I prefer slightly more casual.
Yeah.
So that was a diversion. And just quickly, I started the blog as a way to promote my interior design business. And all of the information about different products in New Zealand and Australia I was finding, but I lived in Queenstown where it was really hard to source products for my clients. So this was a way to publicly share what I was finding out anyway, and talk about my business without talking about my business.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the blog, because it was the first in New Zealand of its kind, became far more popular, and I really enjoyed it. But monetizing anything online 10 years ago, it was just, I think that's why I haven't been too scared to make words up. It's because when I started the blog, no one could give me advice. And that's the other thing I was getting to is I have found it really hard to find people that can give me advice in relation to what I actually do, because I can't really find any other people that do what I do near me.
Yes.
I mean,
I think you've hit on an interesting point there.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to be informed by your own guidance as well.
And I look at things with a critical eye about how people use the internet, and I think, well, that was clever.
Yeah.
And what are they trying to achieve by doing that? I turn myself into I have the ability to analyze something. Everyone does. Yeah. It's just taking it in and working it out, and then practicing.
Yeah.
With it in your own. And the internet's cool because unless you do something terrible with naked bodies or something, it's a testing ground. Yeah. It's there and you can
in real time.
Yeah.
You get to see it in feedback in real time.
And it's not that important as well. So
what about some embarrassing setbacks or failures that you've had? Have you fallen flat on your face and had to pick yourself up again?
One, yes. So I feel like Dad's advice he gave me the first time round really affected me about when I sort of ended up, I really took hold of that when I moved back to Auckland. So I learnt all this stuff about marketing via my blog and the way other businesses were doing it, that when I moved to Wanaka, I couldn't afford to get a ski pass for Treble Cone. So I pitched this idea of creating a blog for Treble Cone, independent, because I noticed they had not many people liked the establishment, and I ended up getting offered a job in marketing at Treble Cone. And I remember saying to him, hey, I didn't go to university. Yeah. Are you sure you want to do this? And so that became an apprenticeship. And that was hugely instrumental in kind of formalizing what I was doing with online marketing, and knowing that what I actually knew was the same as the people in other jobs in my position across my industry.
So it sort of reinforced that you did have knowledge, that you did know.
And I actually knew some things that they didn't know. Yeah. But they knew words that I didn't know.
Which is how it's always going to be, isn't it? It's how it's always going to be. There's always going to be different perspectives, diverse opinions.
Yeah. And so I think the big one was I did that for 3 seasons in Wanaka, and then I thought I just felt like I'd been doing my blog all the time, and I was at a sort of a pivotal point where it felt like New Zealand business as a whole were starting to recognise the influence of independent media sites like mine. So mine at that point was less lifestyle blog like it is now, with me writing about, oh, I really like gardens and blah blah, and it was more, I profiled New Zealand and Australian artists, designers and creative people. So I was trying to be kind of an online magazine.
Right.
So when I moved to Auckland, I just remember this being a really tough time because I felt like all the promise was there. Blogging, there were a lot of bloggers around, but no one had met me, and I was still the first. So I came with a bit of, ooh. And then I remember meeting, various people would meet me through word of mouth, and they'd say, well, we would love you to come in and talk to us, to our company, about helping us with our social media, or it was always generally about the gaps in their digital knowledge.
Yeah.
And I would do it, and they'd be promising the world, and nothing ever came through. And I remember thinking, man, these people up here just believe in everything they say.
Believe their own marketing.
They do, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
So because they're all patting each other on the back the whole time. So I actually made a decision up there. I was really down about it. I mean, I'd left a job which I knew I never even really meant to be in, but I was really lost on where I should be going and if I should still be doing design or whatever. But I really wanted to write and create content that people could relate to instead of either TV gloss or magazine gloss, you know?
Yeah.
So I just remember making the decision that everything I did from this point on was going to be studio home.
Right.
So if I was to do something for someone, that's fine, but it was going to be related to me sharing it on my blog.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be in anyone else's business, which is ironic because that is exactly what I offer myself up to do now.
Right.
And that is part of the learning curve.
Yeah.
I was determined to make my blog my main source of income, whereas in reality, it is my main source of credibility, trust, and promotion.
Yep.
But I needed to offer something else.
So that gets back to what does the client need and adapting around that to deliver to that.
Yep.
The other thing I think that's coming through loud and clear for me from listening to you as well, Julia, is opportunity. You don't always know what an opportunity is, but there's been a lot of opportunities you've kind of either created for yourself or thought, well, what if I take this? And it's led to some things that have been great and some not so great. But I think that light on your feet, ability to be light on your feet is another really important thing for younger people to hear. Yeah.
And that doesn't mean sort of dashing towards every opportunity left, right and centre. It's more that I began to recognise that advertising on blogs or websites was becoming less important to people compared to them wanting editorial.
Yeah.
Which is essentially kind of another reason why I've changed my website, because now I can say, sure, I will write about your beautiful furniture, but we're going to go into a big partnership. Here is my contract. I just made it up because they don't understand how to deal with me. So I show them how to deal with me.
Yes, you have to be proactive. That's another thing. Being proactive and doing what you need to do to manage the situation.
Yeah. And I think that being light on my feet, I thought for a long time about all the gaps, and everyone I was writing about, they didn't know how to use these features I was creating on their own social media. So that's why I wrote a book and then a workshop, which I travelled for a year.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most successful things I've ever done.
So again, that ability to perhaps analyse, well, what's happening, what's working, what isn't working. So using the feedback and the results you're getting.
And instantly, as a carry on from that, I did that for a year, but I was finding that if I was going to be in Hamilton on a Tuesday, well, that didn't suit everyone. They were saying, oh, you're going to be coming back again?
Yeah.
And that was costing me money.
Yeah.
And so I need to take that online, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah. And that's exactly how these things happen. You can't see the end game of where you're heading necessarily, but by using your brain, paying attention to the signals, listening, taking opportunities, I think those are some of the real secrets of your success to get you where you are now.
I think so. And I think the other thing is, 100 times every year my mum asks, do you think you can shut down Studio Home? And I say, why? And she goes, well, all that time put into writing and stuff. And I said, but that is the reason I know what's going on with Facebook. That's the reason I know how to use Instagram. That's the reason I can confidently talk to people about how Instagram stories could be revolutionary for their butchery business. If I don't know those things, if I'm not actively using it in promotion of what I do, then how on earth can I be current value to anybody?
That's right. So that's also about sticking to your knitting and knowing what you offer and having that as a backup. This is who I am, and this is how I interface with other people.
And it's also my favourite thing to do.
That's right. So you've got the passion for it.
Yeah.
And really, at the end of the day, that's so important.
Well, I've managed to make it work for me, but it's much more inadvertent than direct than I thought.
Yeah.
I
think that's a great learning there for the younger people starting out as well.
Yeah.
It's not always a straight line.
And while I do have my own consulting business, essentially, I could also just have a part-time job.
Yeah.
Or a full-time job.
Yeah.
The only thing I would comment on with where I'm at now is if I ever was in a position where I wasn't earning enough from what I'm doing, I would find it harder than others in this day and age to find a job that reflects the actual skills I have, because I don't have the university degrees which people do value. So in one way, I honestly think in some ways I know more than a lot of those people, but I would have to look for work with businesses and brands that are familiar with me already, so that they place value on my 10 years online.
Yep.
So that but I just talk my way around there. I think probably.
I think you would. So I think you've answered you've come full circle on your own question. We're going to wrap up in a minute, but something I'd like to ask you as well. What do you do for your well-being? What do you do to nourish your body and your mind? Because is it hard to shut down sometimes with all these ideas going on in your head? And...
To be totally honest, I never shut down. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not saying I'm a workaholic by any means. I do a lot of lying on the sofa looking at Instagram, but I actually do it with. It's because it's all tied up together.
Yeah.
And I think if you have your own business, you have to be prepared for the fact that you can't shut down and you never shut down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but that is the trade-off for also being able to self-direct the way you want things to go. But I don't feel it as a weight.
Yes.
The things I feel are a weight are
tax,
GST. That's weighty.
Compliance. Yeah.
Sorting out my car insurance.
Yeah. I'm wearing the same.
Adult stuff. So, but what I have found, honestly, since I've moved to a house that I'm not leaving anytime soon, and caught a husband who likes doing what I do, gardening is a huge wind down.
Yeah, and a lot of people say gardening is something that's really good for their well-being.
Oh, it teaches patience, and nothing happens instantly. Like you can buy a new cushion for your sofa.
Yeah.
But if you want that dahlia, I sound like I'm 70 years old. To grow, you've got to wait and see and do everything they say, and it might work, but it might mysteriously not, because gardeners know about this mysterious.
Oh, that could be a great metaphor for life, Julia.
It is. It's really changed my life.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the impact.
I don't. I just don't. Not everything is as important as we think it is.
No, it's not. And just as a parting piece of advice, do you have one soundbite you'd like to offer if you were going to have your time again and maybe starting out with all the wisdom you have now as a grand old lady of your age? What would be a parting soundbite to offer younger people starting out on their career?
Do you know, I don't know if it's a soundbite because I wrote it for myself. This was when I was doing a lot of work with someone who was then, it was for corporates. It was for a corporate level business, as opposed to talking directly to the owner. I was talking via this person I was working with to the GM and I don't even know what all their names mean, And for me, at times I let it intimidate me because I thought I'm not qualified to be in this area, yet they didn't know what an image carousel was on Facebook.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I was qualified and I do know how to do that. But I actually wrote it for me and it's on my board in there. And I was like, it's just, you know, I can't think exactly how it went, but it was, you can learn everything you want to learn, especially in the age of Google. Hooray.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and when people are talking and making you feel small, it's just they're just using words that have a simpler meaning, you know, and it's nothing that you're not capable of, but do respect the process, do respect the learning. You can't, you know, it's taken me 10 years to work out how to earn money online, you know, and it's actually offline, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
But I did write that it's when I see people and I feel intimidated by where they are, that I just remind myself that it's just a bunch of normal people doing things. We all are capable of doing things, but you actually have to put the energy into it. Nothing happens on its own. So I don't even know if that's a soundbite. I should probably just go get it and read it.
I think that's awesome, though. I think that's a great message to leave off on. You know, you want it to happen, you just do it. You can't always predict it.
Everything takes longer than you think it will and more energy than you think it will. But that's okay, because everything, if you're making it work for yourself, there is literally nothing more satisfying than having a personal win of something that you have aimed for. But equally so, I take stock of a lot of my failures, and my failures are just things wheedling off.
Yeah.
You know, my failures are things that didn't earn me money but just cost me a lot of time.
Yeah.
You know,
so is that a real failure, or could it be a lesson?
Well, I learnt my lessons on where my potential best lies, so that's okay. I mean, today I can say it's okay, but we all, you know.
Yeah, and it's a journey, an ongoing journey.
I think that's it. It's just ongoing.
Yeah.
You know, next year you'll be talking to me because I would have written a gardening book for beginners.
Julia,
and I'll probably have a gardening show.
You just don't know, but I love your openness to opportunity. So thank you so much for giving your time today.
Thank you.
To help people who are perhaps starting out on their career and don't know what they're doing, to see that it's really up to you. Get out there, take the lessons, take the opportunities, create the opportunities. Don't be intimidated or put off. There are going to be setbacks, but there's also going to be a lot of learning and a lot of fun and a lot of interests along the way.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.